Hi everyone, welcome back to my channel. So today I'm going to show you how to do a peony in flexible flower paste, as I've got mine out in flower in the garden at the moment. This is one of two that I'm going to do. There's another one that I'm going to do later on, which is a different kind of peony, because like most flowers there are lots of different varieties in them. I've tried doing this all on one wire, and I'll show you in a minute what happened, but now I've changed that and I'm going to wire the outer petals on it. So I'll take it down to my board. Right, so this is one that I did by putting it all on one wire, and the problem with that is that when I did the outer petals here, I had to put the peony upside down like that on some foam. Unfortunately, it squashed all the petals inside with it being flexible flower paste. So that was a bit of a disaster really, because it's very difficult to do that. The trouble was, if I suspended it up above without putting it down like that, all the paste was flying off of the styrofoam ball that I'd used inside. So that's one of the problems that I had with that. So I'll get rid of that and I'll come back in a minute and I'll start off with doing the centre for you. Right, so I've got my glue gun here, and the size of ball that I'm using is a 25mm styrofoam ball. You can buy them in packs like this. I got these off from eBay, not overly expensive. The wire that I'm using, because of the weight of the petals and that, is an 18 gauge wire, because obviously the heavier your flower is, the thicker the wire that you want to be. So this is something you need to take into account when you're getting used to using wires. So I'm just going to put some glue on the end of my bear with me a second while we get that going. Right, and then that goes into your styrofoam ball. And I'm just going to pop that to one side. That dries sets very quickly. That's why I'm using a glue gun. You don't have to wait around for it. I'll just unplug that and get rid of that out of the way. Right, now then, the cutters that I'm using are these. Where are we? Lost one. Just bear with me a second while I find my other cutter. I thought I've got everything all organised together and I've done it again. Oh, there it is, right under my nose. These are metal ones. You can buy plastic ones. FMM do some. They're very good. They've actually got more cutters in than this, and they do go smaller than this. If I was going to do an open one, then I would have used the FMM cutters. But if you've got those, you can use those. Then the leaf cutters I've got are these here. So you do one for this, you want a set of 3. So I'll show you a leaf that I've made up like that. So what you do is do one that way, do one for the other way, and then turn it over so it goes that way. Because these are rolled over on the top, you can't cut it over with both sides. So you'll have to do it and then turn it over. But I'll get onto that when I come onto the leaves. I'm also using a small rose petal cutter to do the initial layer to cover the styrofoam ball, and the first layer of petals, first and second layer of petals I should say, which will bring us up to that stage. Right, so we'll get started. So I've got some paste here that I've coloured with a burgundy. I'll find what I've done with it. Oh, it's there. Here we are. The colour that I've used for this is from the Sugar Flare colours, and I've used, hang on, Ruby, not Ruby, sorry, claret for that, to colour this. You need to put quite a bit in, so it's a good idea to do it and then leave it, because it does go very sticky when you're putting a lot of colour in. So do it the day before if you can, and then you're ready, and it's then a decent consistency to work with then. So I'll just pop those cutters up there. Now I'm going to do all of the first layer, and then the other petals I'm only going to do one of each, because there's a lot of petals on a peony. Need a bit of white fat on the board. Don't be frightened of rolling your paste thin. For anybody that's new watching, a lot of people are scared of getting it too thin. Because it's very stretchy, you can get it really thin. If you haven't had a go with the flexible flour paste, you can find the recipe on my channel. If you go to the channel list, you will find it there, and a couple of videos I've actually posted the link underneath as well to make it easier. I might do that again this time as well, just to be on the safe side, so that people know which paste I'm using. Right, so first of all I'm going to cut out 3 petals. This is a rose petal that's been slightly squashed, which I used for my last video for the Cosmos. So I'm using the same one again for this. And then I want 5 more petals. 5, and then we'll do another 5. 5. We'll get one out of the top there, yeah. Right. The advantage we're working with this paste, because it's very soft, it doesn't dry out too quickly, so unlike normal flour paste, you have to be very careful because it dries so quickly. If you do too many petals, you can end up tearing the edge of your petals because they're drying out and crack. So I want a pad. So I want 3 petals onto there. For the first layer. I'm just going to move these a bit further back so I've got room to work here. Might be coming back with some new ideas shortly as well, because anybody that's in the UK, if you're watching this as I'm posting it, I'm going to Chelsea Flower Show this weekend, so I might be bubbling with inspiration when I come back, hopefully. So thin the edge of your petals, just like you would if you were doing a rose petal. And then what I'm going to do now is I'm going to vein that side of it with my veining tool. I'm using this for all of it. I'm not using any veiners for this. I have got a peony veiner, but I'm not using that because a lot of people don't have veiners. And you'll find when you're doing this for doing normal flowers, unless you're entering a competition, a lot of flowers you can do by just using this method rather than spending lots and lots of money on all these fancy veiners and what have you. I mean, it's nice to have flowers that are botanically correct, but it is expensive. Right, so styrofoam ball. Now I'll turn these petals over. And then glue all over. Now with this paste, because the glue soaks in, you might have to glue them again before you stick them on. So if I leave that there, go back to the first one, glue it again, and then that can go straight onto the top of the styrofoam ball like that. So bring it right up to the top, over it like that. Doesn't matter about covering the bottom, that's going to be covered later as you go along. Then your next one, that goes there, like that. And then the third one goes across there like that. I haven't stuck them down flat at the top. I've left a little bit sticking up so it looks as though it's just starting to open. So if you were doing a bud, you could do a bud like this if you wanted to do it at that stage where it's just starting to show a little bit of colour. I'm not doing one quite at that stage at this point, but there we are. You could do that if you wanted to. Right, so I'll just pop that to one side and come back to the other petals. It's easy if you use a palette knife to pick them up. So we'll do one layer, so we've got 5 petals there. As everybody knows, when you start watching my videos, they are quite long because I do everything, or try and do most things in real time. The only problem with that is that it's a lot of video to watch. So like I said before, if you find it easy just to watch a bit at a time, watch one part, have a break, then come back and do another part, and do it that way. And unlike my students when I was teaching in college, you can come back as many times as you want and go over points again. Right, so again I'm going to vein the petals, so out from middle, in a fan motion. Don't forget to roll it, pointing towards the point there, and roll round like that, and like that, to get your veining, because that's how the veining goes on most petals. This part of the flower is the only one you're going to have to watch me do all the petals, because it's the only way I can do it. I can't have them ready-made for this. They need to be soft to attach to your flower. You don't have to put as many layers on as I'm putting on, but a peony has got a lot of petals on it, a lot more than you've got on a rose, because we generally do them opening up. Right, so now I'm going to turn them round that way. And this first layer I'm going to turn over, because the veining is going to, you see the veining on the, because they're going to come over the petal, over the centre rather, like that. I'm turning them over. This is a bit like the same way as I did a ranunculus. Same sort of principle. Because we don't have veining on both sides of the petals like you do when you're using a rubber veiner. So you're going to glue about 3/4 of it. I'm only going to do a couple of petals and get them on. So up like that, and get your second one, and that crosses over from that, like that. So I'm just leaving a little bit sticking up there, above there. Then we do another 2. all at the same level, but you're bringing the petals in over the top so that the veining is facing upwards. And then if you just lift that first petal back a bit, like you would when you're doing a rose, then we'll glue that petal. Then that's going to go over that one and under the first one. Pull that back a bit further, bring that over like that, bring that round, and then bring that back over there like that, and then you can neat round the bottom. So that's your first layer. So I'm just going to pop that in my foam for a minute while I get the rest of the petals ready. Thin your edges. Then again, I'm going to vein using the same method. Sorry about my dog barking, he's heard somebody outside. He's on guard. Not that it'd make any difference because he'd lick them to death anyway. But there we are. Just a deterrent. That's enough chance. Right, now, because these are going to stand out a little bit more, this time I'm going to glue on the side that I've veined. So I'll just turn these round. So I've got the point towards me. Always make sure your point's down, then you don't put petals on the wrong way up. When we were doing roses in college, I had a lot of students that ended up with pointed petals because I put them on upside down. Yes, I know. Enough said. But then when they're starting, so I'm going to put a little bit of glue on each one of them, and then I'll come back and add a little bit more just before I add them onto the thing. So we'll go back to that one, put some more glue on it. And then you start like you would with the rose, over your joint on the previous layer. Only this time I'm not bringing it too far in. Next one. These all go on at the same level. Lift your first one up, roll that back, and your last petal. goes over there and underneath there, like that. So it's a bit like a rose at the beginning. The only difference is the centre part. You've covered the whole of the round, right? So you can now leave that at that stage and let that dry. I would recommend that. I'm not going to do that because I've got to get on with it. But I'm going to do my next layer of petals, which are with this cutter. You need a bit more paste there. This is the last layer that I'm going to do all of the petals. Picked a hair up from somewhere. Get rid of that. Right, so once you've done that, then again you're going to want 10 more petals. Now, apart from the first layer, there's 2 layers of 5 on each layer. 6, 7, 8, 9. I don't think I'm going to get one out of that other one, am I? Let's try it that way around. See if we can do it. It's going to be one a bit tatty. It's got a piece missing out of the middle, but it will do. We'll make that work. It's only a little nick out of the side and nobody's going to see that because it's going to be inside anyway. But if you're doing it properly, obviously you wouldn't do that, but I'm just thinking of time having to roll the paste out again while you're watching to cut just one petal out. So if anybody's in the UK and you're going to the Chelsea Flower Show, say hello if you see me about. I'm going with a friend of mine, Jan. She's wanted to go, and like she said, and I'm not being funny when I say this, but I mean, she's not as old as me, but we're both getting to that age that, like she said, we might not get another chance to go. So, being up in the north of England, we have the Harrogate in the flower show season, but we've been there for the last 2 or 3 years, so we decided this time we wanted to go to the big one. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Oh, I've lost 2. Right, so I'm going to have to cut some more out anyway. But what I'll do with that is I will switch the camera off for that. I'm just going to pop these onto here and then I can roll some more paste out. Because these are going to be treated differently. We don't need to thin the edges on these because these are going to be stretched with the veining tool and frilled on the edges. So these are slightly different, so you don't need your ball tool again after this. Just cut 2 more. Just be back in a second when I've cut these out. Right, I'm back. I decided to vein some of the petals while while I was off camera, so that you didn't have to watch me do them all. I've only got 3 to do. So with these petals, what you need to do is the same as before. Veining tool in the centre, roll out in a fan motion like that, and then, and this is why you don't need to thin the edges, then get onto the edge of your finger and with the middle part of your silk veining tool frill the edges of the petals. Don't worry if you stretch petals, because they're not identical art petals on, well, they aren't on most flowers, but I mean on peonies they're quite frilly, and there's nothing straight about any of the petals on them. Right. Don't forget you can leave comments in the section below if you've got any questions you want to ask about the videos, or anything that you'd like to see me do, or whatever. I keep telling you all that, but I'm waiting for a lot of people to leave me some comments on what they'd like to see, because you get mental block when you've done as many flowers as I have. It gets hard to think, well, what can I do now? And with all the videos I've done, it gets hard to remember what I've done. Partly the reason I'm repeating some of these, but because it's a different paste, I wanted to show people the difference between using ordinary flower paste and this new flexible flower paste, which apparently, as far as I know, you still can't get in the UK. Manufacturers, you're missing out on an opportunity. Well, that's your problem, because now we know how to make it, we don't need to buy it from you, do we? Right, so that's all my petals done there. So I'll bring my centre over, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to do like I do with a rose. I'm going to turn it upside down to do this. So again, I'm going to glue about half of the petal. I'm just going to do a couple of petals at a time, because like I say, the glue soaks in, so, and then take that down there over the join on the layer before, and then that next one goes over that join there. So like a rose, you're going higher up so that they come up to the same sort of level there. Overlapping as you go. And the last one of that 5. And I've left that one loose there so that I can tuck that underneath it. That's going to go there, into there, over there, and tuck that over there. Now you can go around and make sure that everything is attached. Because you're on a styrofoam ball, this is why I didn't do the rest of the petals on here like this, because they start sliding round when you start getting weight on like this. So what you can do is get it in your hand like that. You can lift it up to see if you've got, that wants to come down a bit. It's going up a little bit. There we are. And if you need to add any glue to any of the petals. Right, so I'm just going to put that into my foam here, and I'm going to put it in like that at an angle, and then stand it on something so it's off the, not touching anything. There we are. Right, So I can get all my other petals ready now, get them all in position, ready to put on. As I say, if you're doing this at home, I would recommend that you let each layer dry before you do this. Because I'm doing a demonstration, I'm doing it all in one go. But normally if I was doing it, and I was doing a few of them, I would let them dry in between. Right, so now we've got them all up, and get the centre back and start gluing the petals. Just do a couple at a time. And again, they're going to go over the join at the same level. I'm doing it, trying to do it at a reasonable speed so that they don't all slide off when I'm doing this. Last petal. Lift that first one up. It's going to go over there and under that one and bring that back round. So there we are. If I lift that up, that's the stage we've got to now with that. So that's going to go back upside down and it's going to go into my foam to dry. And I've already got one that I've done earlier that's got to that stage. No, I haven't. I've got one here that's that I've let dry with the rose petals. I've forgotten what I've done. Right, so what I'm going to do is take those petals off of there and put them onto this one. Then they won't slide off because there's a chance if I leave these on here, they're all going to end up on the floor anyway. Right, so I'll put that back to dry. Sorry about that, I dropped one of the petals. These are not going on a cake or anything else other than that. So I'll start again. It just shows you what can go wrong. It's like I keep saying to people, things go wrong with me on camera, I don't stop it and record it again. If something goes wrong, it goes wrong and that's it. The only thing to do is to show people how to correct it. While I'm just concentrating on doing this, don't forget to subscribe to the channel if you haven't already subscribed. It's free to subscribe and you should get notified about any new videos that I'm posting. And again, if you've got any comments or any questions about anything, don't be afraid to leave a comment. I'll get back as soon as I can. As far as I'm aware, I think I've replied to every single question that's been asked Unlike some people on YouTube, I know there's some people I've sent questions to for other things and they haven't got back, which personally I think is a bit rude, because what is the point in having a comment section if they're not going to answer your questions? Right, so again, start again over the join of the previous layer. Make sure you're going the same way around as you did with the layer before. Lift that first one up and put that underneath. Bring that back down. Right, so that's them on. So you can put that to one side, upside down, ready to dry. And I have got one here that I've put that layer on that has dried, which is this layer here. So I'm going to now have a break, and I'll come back and finish the rest of the video off later, but I need a cup of coffee and something to eat, so I'll be back very soon. Right, I'm back for the next stage now. So the next thing that we need to do now is to make the larger petals. You've got two different sizes here, the medium ones and the large ones. That's the large one and that's the medium one. So we're going to make 10 of each of these petals. The same with all of the petals in numbers, but as I say, if you want to make a smaller flower you can use less if you want and do one layer instead of two. I've already made 2 layers. But as I say, I'm only going to do one of each petal because you don't need to watch me making 20 petals, do you? Get some fat on my board, then I can roll it out. It's a lot easier to roll out if you get some vegetable fat on your board like you do with the flour paste. Now you don't want to go quite as thin with these because you're going to need a ridge if you're using the ridge rolling pin like I do. If you've got a ridge board then use the ridge board, but don't forget when you roll out on your ridge board, I know I keep repeating myself, turn your paste over before you cut your petals out so that you can see where your ridge is. Right, so I'm going to put my ridge up the centre. I don't know what... Right, sorry about that everyone, my camera went off so I'm not quite sure where I got to, but obviously I've rolled my paste out to do 2 petals. The wires you need for doing the petals are, I've used a 24 gauge wire, when I find where I've put them. Here we are, there we are. The reason for that, because they're being larger petals, I wanted something a bit stronger than a 26, which is what I normally use for petals. So I'll cut out a large petal. Make sure you put plenty of weight on all the way around, because being large cutters, if you don't get enough weight round, you don't get a good cut all the way around on large cutters. And not, they need a little bit more attention than the smaller cutters like your rose petal cutters and things like that. Right, so we've got one of each of those. Just move that out of the way. And then get your wire into your petal. That's the small one, so that's a slightly shorter wire, so I'll use that one in there. So get it up. Probably I've gone about that far on my petal, so I'm probably about 2/3 of the way up the petal. You might need to put it slightly further on the larger one, that's up to you. But the further up you go, the stronger the centre of your petal is going to be. And if you're using ordinary flower paste, then as we know, they're quite easy to break, and if you've got your wire further up your petal, then it's a lot easier to repair it. Right, so to do your petals, I'm only going to do one of these because I'm not using them anyway. I've already got all mine dried, but it's the same on both petals. Centre of your petal, roll out and roll out in a fan motion like that. The most important part obviously is this top bit, because that's the bit that's going to be seen. Then onto the edge of your fingers, and then you start frilling the edges with your point up in the air so it doesn't dig into your paste. If you do it like that, you're going to end up with a ridge round there, so make sure that the point is up in the air. And frill all around your edges like that. And then what you need to do with both petals, if I just get some foam over here, just get some of these things off, get a piece of foam over, and then get your petal and put your thumb in the middle and then curve it up like that, and then pop your petal down into the hollow and just push it down with your finger just so it sits nicely in there. So you've got a nice hollowed out bottom, so that when we attach it to the centre that we've already done, it'll wrap around it then. Okay, so I'm not going to bother with that one because you do exactly the same with that as you do with the other one. So we'll go on to the leaves now. So I'll just get rid of that paste out of there. And we'll get some green paste out. Now, with all of my leaves, as I keep saying to people, I keep instilling it, don't buy loads of different greens for making your leaves, because you don't need them. You only need one green, and that is a bright green like leaf green. Hang on, is it leaf green? Yeah, no it isn't. Green Extra from Sugar Flare. Just bear with me a second while I find out which it is. Sorry, Christmas Green from Sugar Flare is the only green you need, because you just need a background. You can colour your leaves to whatever colour you want with your powder colours, which are a lot cheaper. Christmas Green from Sugar Flare and Holly and Ivy from Squire's Kitchen. Don't get them mixed up. Just bear with me a second. Sorry about that. The dog was barking at somebody again. Been a naughty boy today. Usually only does that at night when I've gone to bed. Right, as I say, there's only one green that you need. Either Christmas Green from Sugar Flare or Holly and Ivy from Squire's Kitchen. Other makes will vary, but find out which is the brightest green. You can get a dark green, this sort of green. You don't want things like forest green and mint green and stuff like that. You don't need them, because all you do is just put either more green in or less green. You can have blue to it if you want a more bluey green paste. You can do it that way, rather than having lots of different greens and spending loads of money on all these things. I know manufacturers want you to buy all these different things, but you don't need them. But that's up to you. Right, so I've got a bit too much fat on there, it's sliding about a bit. Just bear with me a second until I get it going. There we are. I always do that with it, and then when I roll it out I get the same width all the way up to get it thicker at the sides like that. And again with my ridge rolling pin, those are my widest bits there, we'll use that side. So I'm going to cut out one of these, of the big one. So try and get your ridge, if you can, as near to the centre. It's not going to be quite, it's going to be slightly offside as far as it looks, but it's because the leaf is offside on that. So cut one of those out. And then the side one, I want two of those. So that's the cutting side. So I'll cut one out there, and cut one out there. Just make sure that the bottom and the point are in line with your ridge. This side piece doesn't matter. So that's where your wire's going to go. So then we've got two of those and one of the big ones. Like that. Right, so for these then we use your normal 28 gauge wires for leaves. When I can get them out, they've put rather a lot in my little thing here, so I'm just going to cut that into three because I've got three parts for this leaf because I'm not doing any more. So where's my scissors there? Again, for anybody watching that hasn't watched before, these are florist scissors, they're not normal scissors, so don't use your normal scissors for this job. Either get some florist scissors or a wire cutter. And get a decent one, don't buy cheap ones because it's not worth it. Right, so between your finger and your thumb with your ridge up the centre, and then twist your wire into the bottom, and then feel it going up your paste. As far up as you can get. Because it's quite a big leaf, that's scrunched up a bit there. My wires come through. And I've split my paste a little bit at the bottom. This is a cheat, but if you were doing competition or you're doing a cake for somebody, don't do this. Do it again. But because I haven't got time to do it again and I don't want you to get bored, I'm going to do a little cheat. So a little tiny bit of paste over the top. And this, because this paste is quite sticky, it goes on quite well and cover your wire up. There we are, that's that done. So, and it might well happen with these because I've got that paste a little bit thin there. But we'll see how we go. Again, twist it into the bottom of your ridge. The reason being for that, for anybody that hasn't watched before, is because these wires are covered with Stemtex, which is what we use to put sprays together, and it can unravel. There we are, that one's alright. But since I'm not using these, it doesn't really matter, but because I've already got my dried ones anyway. Twist it into the bottom. Now, as I said, because this cutter only cuts out one way, what you'll have to do is to turn one of your leaves over so you've got one that way. So you've got one for each side. So we'll come on to the veining now. These are veiners from Squire's Kitchen from the Great Impressions range. These are the ones that I'm using here. Now, because I found you can't actually get veiners that actually fit the cutters for some reason, unless they're made by the same person specifically for doing a particular leaf, and you're going to pay a lot of money for them if you can get them. But if you haven't, then you'll have to do this in bits like I'm going to do now. So what you do is get your first leaf for the first part of it. Now I'm going to use the bigger one for this because that'll fit better. That's better. Give that a good press. And then I need to do that side bit separately, so then I'm going to go into the small one with just that side bit. Get that straight in the middle, that's it, and give that a press, like that. So then you've got that. And then you want to go, just move that out of the way, go into your form then, just to shape that. And then do the same thing again with the other side. Into your large one for the long part. Whoops. Butterfingers. And then into the small one for the side bit. And put most of the pressure on the top end here, because that's where you need your veining, up there. And into your form. And then we go on to your big leaf. And just move those out of the way. That wants to go up the centre there. Sorry, other way around. Ridge into the groove. Put the centre on, give that a good press. That's torn it a bit, never mind. As I'm not using this, it doesn't really matter. I'm just basically showing you this just to show what to do. Try and get your paste a little bit thicker. I got it a little bit too thin there. So into the side with the smaller veiner, give that a press. And then go on to the other side. Whoops, and give that a press. I'm just going to try and repair that one now, just to show you what you can do if necessary, if you're really stuck. I mean, if you're doing this for yourself, it doesn't really matter, but if you were doing it for somebody else, it would matter. So I'll just get a little tiny piece of paste there. If you have difficulty getting your wires in to a leaf, I'll do you a quick demonstration on what we call the lick and stick, but we don't actually lick it, so don't want any complaints saying about licking wires. We don't actually lick them. They only call lick and stick because it's stuck. Right. So that's repaired that bit. If I was doing that for somebody, I wouldn't do that. But that's just if you're doing it for yourself and you're practicing. Right, the lick and stick method is... oh, I need another wire. Have I got a wire somewhere that I can use? One of these thick wires will do. I'll just quickly show you this method. Because if you're using a veiner, this is alright. If you're not using a veiner, this method is no good. So you'd roll your paste out like that, without a ridge this time, And then what you need to do then is to get some paste on your wire. Roll that into a sausage. Put your wire into the sausage of paste. Oops. A little bit past the end, and then roll it onto your wire. Like that. Then what you do then is cut out your leaf with no ridge. Like that. Then you want some glue on your wire, on your paste there, like that. Put that down onto your leaf. And we'll use the big veiner for this just to give you an idea. Now what you need to remember now is that that piece of paste there that you've got onto your leaf is going to go to the back, so that's going to go into the groove like that. Put your top on and give it a good press. And then you do your side the same as normal. So that will go into there like that. That goes onto there, and just give it a press just at that top end there. So there you've got your stick and lick. The wire has come through a bit there because I got my paste a little bit too thin, but if you look on the back, it's merged the paste into the leaf. So that's just another way of doing it. I know that's not perfect before anybody makes any comments about it, but obviously if you were doing that for yourself, you'd take a little bit more time than I've done there. And I keep saying to people, no matter how many videos you watch on professionals doing these sort of things and that, they don't show you when things go wrong. And I don't believe in covering things up, because if you've got to put something right, then you've got to put it right. So you need to show people how it's done. So now then, we'll get on to colouring now. I've already done a load of my petals, so I've left 2 petals here to colour for these that I've done on the wires. Just get all these cutters out of the way. Get them all to one side. So I want some kitchen roll. Now I'm not aiming to make a big difference on the edge of these petals. This is just to give a bit of depth on the ends. Where I've thinned it out and frilled it, it's quite fine, and the colour looks a lot paler on the edges. So what I'm doing is I'm just rejuvenating that. And the colour I'm using here on this is called Garnet from Edible Art. So I've got my brush that I use for that sort of colour there. And I'm just going to brush the edges and bring it down a little bit. Down there, like that. That's the only part you're really going to see anyway. And then again, the same on the back. And if you see, it just brings all the colour back together again. It just darkens the edges of the petals again. We're not aiming for a shaded edge on the edge of there. I don't know whether there are any bicolour peonies. I haven't seen any yet, but there we are. But like I said earlier on in this video, I am going to do a different one that I've got in my garden. It hasn't come out into flower yet. It's a peachy coloured one, but it's like a single version of a peony. It just has 2 layers of petals. I'm calling it a single because it doesn't have all the petals that this has. A botanist might call it a single peony. I would if it's not got as many petals. Right, so once I've done that, I'll get rid of that out of the way. Oh, I need that again, sorry. We've got the centre to do, haven't we? Now I haven't dusted any of this, so I'm just going to dust this centre. So just again, just catching the edge of the petals just to take that light edge off. Chance! Give over. Sorry about that. He's in one of those moods today. He's usually alright. Especially when I'm working. But he's been a naughty boy today, aren't you? And I'm just going to go around all the edge. And in the centre. And round the outside of the outer petals. Right, so now that that's done, I want some dark green tape. So for this one I'm using the moss green, which is the darker of the greens. I think this is an old roll. I'm having difficulty getting it off because it's sticking. I think it's dried a bit, so I haven't used this colour for quite a while. Have I got some already off? Oh, I think I've got some already cut. Here we are. I have got some cut. So what you need to do is to find out which is your sticky side of your tape. In other words, which bit sticks to your fingers when you stretch it. It's not very sticky, isn't this? Bring it round your wire. Nip it in with your fingernail. Wind it round and then bring it down a little bit and bring it up underneath the centre and then wind back up again. So what I need to do first of all is to get all of my smaller petals, which are these here. And bend the wires down and then pop that end underneath your centre, and you can bring that back up again a bit once you've got that in, and then again, like we did with the previous layer, overlap them. Once you've got a few petals in, they start getting easier to keep in place. And as long as you've curved them round the bottom, like I said in the foam, they should sit nicely underneath your centre there. And then your last one is going to go underneath that one and over that one. So it goes under there and over there, like that. Tape that on. And then what I would do now is to tape down. And then pull your wires down to make sure everything is in nice and tight. Some of these wires are a little bit short, so I'm just having difficulty getting hold of them. Once you've done that, You can tape all the way down to make sure they stay put. Once you've got those in, you can adjust your petals round then as you want to get them in the right places. That one's moved. That one's to come round here over that one, and that one's to overlap that one. That's it. So then again, start your tape off again underneath that, and then put your next layer in. And like you do with the rose, your next layer are going to go in between the previous layer. So you've got your, where your leaves cross over, that petal wants to be in the centre of that, like that. Make sure you get that one well fixed in before you put your next one in, and then put the rest of them in. That goes in there, like that. Where are we? Oh, that's my second layer there, isn't it? Yeah. There. You get a bit lost when you're trying to see where you are with your petals. So once you start getting going, then it's a good idea to keep going. Don't move it round like I just did, otherwise you lose your place. That one's decided to move around a bit. That's going to go in under there, like that. So we'll just bring the tape down a bit further, and then pull all those wires down then. Make sure that they're all nice and tight in. It stops your petals from swinging about and racking about. And then you can tape down the rest of it then. Right, so that's that layer in. Let's get some more tape, if I've got some more somewhere. No, I haven't got any more of that. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to try and unravel this. I'm going to use some full width tape. Oh no, it's another roll, it's a newer roll. I've just found I had another newer roll that I could have used. Never mind. There we are, that's better. Much easier to use, and we'll cut that in half. I won't use the full width now. I've got that. It just kept splitting with the other older roll. That's why I wasn't going to cut it in half. But now that I found a fresh roll, I can do that. There we are. My trusty little cutter. If you can get hold of one of these cutters from your sugar craft shop, they're made by Gem. Get one because they're so invaluable. So easy to cut your tape. Right, just need to check and see which is the sticky side. That's the sticky side. So we turn that over. It's just like crepe paper with glue in it, is this. Right, get that going underneath there. Right, now we can get on to the next layer of petals, which are the larger ones. And before I do it, I'm going to bend all these wires down. Right, start off over a join with the previous layer and go around. Get that taped in, then onto your next one. And just keep adding them in until you get all your petals in. And where are we? Yeah. Then that one goes over and under the previous one. Doesn't matter if they don't completely cover up, they just sit where they sit. And again, like before, if you tape down a bit and then pull all your wires down to make sure they're all nice and tight in. I need some new glasses, I'm seeing double here with some of these wires. And tape down. Make sure they stay put. Tear that off, then go back in and do your next layer. You'll find that once you've taped down as well, that your next layer of tape should stick a bit easier as well, because it's got something to grip onto once you've started taping. So then that layer goes over the join of the previous layer. Just pull that one down because that's come up a little bit. Whoops. Next one in. Just take your time, because when you get a lot of petals in like this, it gets a little bit more difficult to handle. What have we done there? Tape will come down a little bit low down there, just bringing it back up again. And then the last one in. Tape down. And then pull your wires down. Make sure everything's all nice and tight. and tape all the way down. Sometimes your tape gets a bit twisty, just try to untwist it when you've got that far. We go right down to the bottom this time. Now, with that. Right, so that's all your peony put together now. So now, if you want to do the calyx on it, I'll just get those out of the way. Oops. I'm just going to put that up in my foam for a minute. Well, I just get rid of these out of the way. I've already had some of this powder split all over me. When I was doing my get ready bit, my cat decided to come up, jump up on my knee, got hold of the paper, and all the blooming red powder went all over the clean jogging bottoms I put on this morning. So she's in a cage now. She's been a naughty pussy. I don't normally let them do that, but I didn't even know she was up here at the time, so there we are. Right, so I'm doing my green paste. Just bear with me a sec while I find what I've done with me. Oh, it's there, under my foam. If you want to do a calyx on it now, I can show you on the one that was squashed. I've actually put a calyx on that one, which is now falling apart. And that's basically what the calyx looks like. Just take those pieces of paper out there. Basically, you want 3 pieces cut out with a rose petal cutter, and then 3 leaf shapes. Now, if you don't want to do that, you could just do the rose petal cutter one. I'll find where I've put it. Should be there under these cutters somewhere. What have we done with it? So I've got a simple leaf cutter here. You could use that if you wanted to. That's another one that would probably make it look a little bit better. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to... anything that's sort of similar shape to that will do. You've got a hellebore cutter, that I'd do as well. Whatever you've got to hand. Now it depends on whether anybody's going to see the back or not, because they're not really going to see. If you're putting this on a cake, they're not going to see the back. If you were making an arrangement you were going to put into a vase or something, especially if you're doing it in cold porcelain or something like that for decoration at home, then you would need to put a calyx on the back because it's more likely to be seen. So I'm just going to cut out 3 of these shapes here. And then I want my foam. If you want to put the longer pieces in, what I've used is the leaf cutter here. And what I would do is, excuse me, cut out that piece there from the short piece. I use the long ones, they're a bit too long. So I would use the shorter ones for that if you're going to do that. And then just vein it with the same veiner as your leaf. So just give these... that's stretching a bit. I'm just going to roll the edges of this, because sometimes when you just cut your paste out and it's soft, it's easy to use it like cold porcelain. If it's been cut a load out and it's been left to stand there a bit, it's not so bad. But because I've just cut this out fresh, it's misbehaving a little bit. And I have done this a bit thicker than I would with petals anyway, so that's partly the reason. When your paste is thick, it does tend to stretch a bit like that. And then what you can do is get the big side of your ball tool and then just go into the centre like that, just to hollow that bit out. And then if you get your peony, and turn that over, get some glue, put it on the same side that you've hollowed it out, and just pop that like that. That's the bottom of that bit there. And that one. Personally, I think they look a bit neater like this when you're doing them in sugar, rather than getting too carried away like that. Okay? And obviously you'd leave it upside down to let that set a bit before you... So I'm just going to pop that to one side, and then if you're doing a bud to go with it, like this one I've got here with just the petals on, we can do that as well and make that into a bud by bringing the bringing that up a bit more. The calyx do tend to shrink back a bit as the flower opens, so what I'll need to do with this is to stretch it a bit more to fit round that so it covers all the bottom up. So I've cut 3 of those out. Onto the foam, thin the edges, and then go into the centre, and I'm going to hollow that out quite a lot so it stretches it round a bit. You don't really see the long bits as they're opening out. I'm lucky at the moment because I've got them in flower in the garden. I've seen all this happening, so we hollow that out quite well. Go right round. Stretch that one a little bit further as well. Go a bit further round. Go on a bit further out with your ball tool. That's better. Right, so once you've done that, then we can glue all that. I'm going to glue halfway up with this. Then that can go onto there like that. Down there. The reason I'm gluing halfway up is because you don't want it to fall off. Put that round the bottom there, like that. And then, last one, onto there, like that. And just neaten it up at the bottom. You just get in and just pinch it round so it fits onto your wire like that. And then you get some of your green tape and then tape that down. Push that up underneath there, like that. And tape down. Right, so we've got that ready. So you've got a bud. And if you wanted to, the other one that I did here, you could put a calyx on that one as well, and you could have a bud, a half open one and a full one. So here we are. We've got the rainforest. So I'm going to dust all over. There's no shading on these leaves. They don't seem to have any kind of shading of different colours on these peony leaves. And then without putting any more colour on your back, just give a waft over the back with the colour. Like in most leaves, the darker on the front and lighter on the back. And then the same with your side leaves. Excuse my voice, I've been having a bit of trouble with my with a chest infection, and when it gets later on in the day I tend to start losing my voice for some reason, and I keep forgetting to tell the doctor when I see him. But we'll see how we go on, because I'm just coming to the end of the medication for that. Not that you want to know that anyway. Right, waft over the back of that. And over the back of that. Right. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to tape these together. Sometimes with leaves it's a good idea to tape them together before you varnish them. If you can't varnish, then obviously steam, but you need to steam them and re-steam them until you get the colour, the depth of shine you want on your leaves. Just takes longer, whereas with the varnish it's a lot quicker. I'm just going to tape down a little bit, make sure the tape's up to the base of there, and then put in your side leaves. Remember, one goes one way and one goes the other way, because these are going to opposite sides. Then we'll tape those down, pull your wires down, like that. Then you can tape down with them. And that leaf goes out to that side, that goes out to the other side. Like that. Okay. So then I'm going to get my brush for my glaze, get some leaf glaze and give that a brush over, so I've got some sort of nice shiny leaves. And the advantage with using the leaf glaze as well is, as I found many years ago when I first started, when I did my first demonstration when I was a member of the British Sugarcraft Guild, it pushes the powder colour into the veins and makes them stand out a bit more. Not a lot of people know that. At least I've never heard anybody mention it, so I'm assuming that that's the case. There. So that's glazed now. So we can put that to one side to dry. Always remember when you've used leaf glaze that you clean your brushes straight away. I always keep some isopropyl in a separate container just for cleaning brushes in. Because if you don't, if you leave your brush with the glaze on it, it will go hard. Then it's difficult to get it back to where it was. So rather than having to keep buying brushes, then it's a good idea to make sure that you clean them properly. Right, so we'll get rid of that. Now I'm leaving the green out for the time being, because what I'm going to do now is, while I've got my green brush out, I'm going to dust the calyx now. So that now matches up with the leaves. Sorry about that, my dog's off again. Just put that on there for now, for the time being, and go back to my other two, to my half open flower. Need to put some tape on that one as well, because I didn't cover the wire with that one. And on my bud. There we are. So that's the bud, the flower and the leaves. So I'm just going to put the leaves under the flower just to finish that off for now. So I'm just going to give that a bit of a bend just to give you an idea of the finished flower. Just going to come down a little bit and then put the other leaf in, so I'm not going both at the same level. And tape right down. Bring that leaf round there and bring that one round there. So, there we are. I have my peony, my half flower and bud ready for whatever arrangement you want to put it into. So I hope you've enjoyed the video, everybody, and don't forget, if there's any questions you've got, leave them in the comments below. And if you've got any ideas about anything that you'd like to see on any of my videos, let me just bend that down a bit so you can see that. I will cover that later. So there we are. There's the 3 versions of my peony. Well, I hope you've enjoyed the video. So take care, stay safe, see you soon. Right, so I've put a calyx on the half open one. The same as I've done on the others while I've been off screen, rather than watching me go over and over again on the same thing. So what I'm going to do now is we'll come onto the leaves, and where are we? Where's my dried ones? Those are the ones there. They're dry. And we'll colour those in now. So the colour that I'm going to use for the leaves is Rainforest, which is quite a dark green from Edible Art. As I said before, if you want to see about these colours, you can buy them directly online from Edible Art. That's Edible Art, not Edible Art. World of Colour, all one word, .co.uk. Just bear with me a second.